Here we go. It's another edition of the Puck the Huskies podcast. It is brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, of course, locally owned and operated by two fantastic University of Washington alums, Manny and Roger. They're so popular, they named beers after them. Of course, Manny's Pale Ale, Roger's Pilsner. You can find it at Georgetown Brewery. If their tap room is open now, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week, you can visit georgetownbeer.com. Elise Woodward, sideline extraordinaire reporter. Jordan Reffett, 19-time All-American defensive tackle at the University of Washington. Proud dad of, 15,000 kids. Moses Lake superstar. He's with us as well. Hey, I saw a picture of you back in the day playing for the basketball team. What kind of hooper were you?
Actually, hoop was a big part of my life. I was an all-state basketball player until I played against Brandon Roy in the all-state basketball game, and I realized that basketball wasn't quite my sport, right? And I think he had like 25 at half or something like that, and we were playing at Key Arena, and I was like, I always loved basketball. I mean, it was but I was a bruiser. I was kind of like a shorter, non-athletic John Brockman, and it was fun. I love basketball. We had a good time.
It was curtains on the basketball career once you saw Brandon Roy dunk on you.
Yeah. Well, and it was weird because he's like my height or maybe at 6'5", something like that, 6'6", and he's playing guard, and I can't dribble the basketball. I'm a post, right? I'm the old school Charles Barkley.
Uh-huh.
That was my, get to the block, 20 rebounds, 20 points. That's all you need. So yeah.
At least, what did you play besides just hoops?
In college, nothing. But in high school, I played softball, and I was a keeper in soccer.
Okay, look at that.
Nice.
Was softball, was it fast pitch or was it still slow pitch?
Oh, yeah, no, it was fast pitch.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved it, actually. There was a moment, when I was at UW, I lived with all softball players. There was a moment I thought when the basketball season would wrap up, I'd come out and be a pinch runner or, come do something. But then literally, if you go back in the history of Husky softball, one, they played for the national championship the year I thought about doing that. And two, the second baseman and the shortstop are freaking legends. Tamara Dorsett, who played short, and Sarah Pickering, who still is in the record books for doubles. And like you, Jordan, I was like, maybe that's not in my skill set anymore. I'll just stick to basketball.
Well, it's one of the, I love watching softball. I love your kids play, right? Your daughters play, right, Jordan?
Yeah. You know what? I got to bring this up. So, my oldest daughter, who just graduated high school, plays at Big Bend Community College in Moses Lake, and they're actually scheduled to play UW on Saturday, and the 28th over in Seattle. And it was like a dream come true. They're going to go play, and I was like, yeah, show Coach Tar what you got, and all that stuff. But they had to reschedule it, so I'm not sure when they're going to play. But yeah, in the fall they play these kind of local teams and stuff like that. Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and then all my daughters do it. It's an absolute nightmare. It's chaos. It's expensive. I mean, I got my little kids are getting towed around by their mom and me and wagons and vans. And so, but I love watching them play. I mean, there's nothing better. And you guys know as parents than watching your kids compete, whether it's, on the keyboard, somebody playing piano or obviously playing basketball, football, softball. But I do love softball. It's a lot of fun. Yeah. But yeah, that's my thing is girls softball and girls basketball and soccer. But yeah, that's kind of my lineup right now.
Good. Well, it keeps you busy. Elise, start with you first. Clearly, no hangover from the Apple Cup. I mean, that was probably maybe a talking point going in. Would there be a hangover from that game? But boy, they faced Northwestern, and really for, I don't know. I mean, maybe a few minutes. It looked like maybe it was going to give them trouble, but then they pulled away and won comfortably. Did that surprise you, or that what you probably expected from them this past week?
No, I think at home against Northwestern that they needed to win by double digits, and they did, and they looked good. I thought it could have been worse. They had a couple of things that, in terms of the score, they probably should have put more than 24 points on the board. That's a little bit of a concern, but I mean, you look at they are putting together consistently a lot of big plays. I think they're 11th right now in plays of 10 yards or more. So that's impressive. And it's pretty good balance with the running game and the passing game with the explosive plays. So I think that's been good. I'm surprised that they haven't put more points on the board with that. But I mean, you just look at the defense, it's been phenomenal. The fact that play after play, series after series, that what they started the game with 6 straight punts forced, and then the only points they gave up on the day were a field goal after a fumble recovery, which was a great stand by their defense. And of course, the safety, that's on the offense. So I thought, and the goal line stand 5 plays in a row because of the penalty, that they were at the 2-yard line and bowed up and would not let Northwestern score. That, to me, was the highlight of the game. That was impressive stuff. And so I think the question is, they've done this now 3 of the first 4 games. They've not allowed a touchdown. And the touchdowns they gave up against Washington State, especially the 3rd and 20, they give up a 25-yard quarterback draw to Johnny Mateer. So I think their defense has had some spectacular moments. They look really good. So overall, they took care of business, and there's a lot of things to be pleased with. And, like everything, there's some things that they need to get fixed as well, though.
Yeah, so first off, I mean, this defense needs, all the flowers, all the credit, everything. I mean, I don't care who you're playing. We've talked about this. Northwestern's in the Big Ten. They got Big Ten recruits. They're not obviously a juggernaut on offense. But to me, that defense has been lights out. And they've been put in horrible situations, like Elise talks about, not only the goal line stand, but all throughout the games, the silly turnovers, the bad special teams on punt return and kickoff return, punt coverage and kick coverage.
Yeah.
That's something that has to get cleaned up. That's really my ugliest thing from this weekend. And really the first part of the year is our special teams right now. But the defense, to me, I feel confident because Washington State, I think, is a really good offense. Maybe not a great offense, but they have one of the greatest players, I think, in college football right now, which is John Mateer. And for them to even hold him to 24 points, and then also, like I said, it was kind of a freakish play where he scored on that one. It would have been 17 points or maybe 20 points. But to me, those are things that the Huskies are going to hang their hat on, because right now, offensively, they're just not totally in sync. Northwestern's defense are not obviously a juggernaut like we talked about early on, but to me, they just never really get in sync. They'll hit a big play. We're great at big plays. We'll have a 25-yard play, a 40-yard play, a 15-yard play, and then it just bogs down. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if it's a personnel right now with the offensive line. We did have some problems at left tackle early on in that game with McCree there playing left tackle, but I think that the offense is really our Achilles heel right now, where we have to find a way to protect this great defense and not keep, because against Michigans and Penn States and Rutgers, you can't put the defense in that position and expect them to do that every week. So I think now they have to almost shift their focus to where we got to protect our really good defense, and maybe we're only going to score 20, 25 points. So let's play some field position, right? Because we're not going to be that offense that we were the last 2 years. It's just not there. We don't have Michael Penix. We don't have that Ryan Grubb situation. So I think they got to almost change that focus to ball control and special teams if they want to get to that next level this season.
Elise, 2-part question, right? We're never supposed to ask 2-part questions.
Break the rules, Puck.
Yeah, break the rules.
It's your podcast.
I know, but I hate that rule anyways. It's so stupid. Don't ask 2 questions at once. I've never understood that. One, Elise, should they force more to Coleman? And 2, evaluate Will Rogers if you can. Just in terms of, like, it's not that he's been bad, but I'm just wondering if it's hard to walk into what he walked into, who he's replacing. I'm just curious what we've seen of him in the first, almost month of the season.
In terms of Jonah Coleman, I think that it's like a basketball player, your star player. You need touches, right? You need, I want you to get 20. You don't want to force shots, but you want to get them involved. So he needs to be you're going to be the outlet pass. You're going to be you want to get him as many touches as possible. He's proved to be an able receiver too. So, I think between receiving and carries and, just targets and looking, the play designed for him as the first option, and sometimes it won't work, and you have to go other places. But yeah, you want him to be your number one focus, and then probably Giles Jackson and Denzel Boston as well. But Jonah Coleman is a fierce. You guys, that hurdle play. Oh my God, on the sideline. The guy is like listed at 5'9". Let's be honest.
Like 5'2".
He might be, right? I mean, and he is as wide as he is tall. I mean, the guy is a bowling ball with like knives attached. He's incredible. When he leaped over that dude, he could have cleared, like, he could have been the Fosbury flop. Like, he could have cleared 7 feet on the freaking high jump. It was phenomenal. Anyway, that was the most entertaining thing of the game. The crowd, that was
nuts.
The biggest. Woo! You know, just the sound is hilarious on the sideline. Like, you get the big third down, you know, like kind of the everybody gets up and screams, and then you get the cheer for the touchdown. Totally different sound coming from the crowd on the Jonah Coleman hurdle. It was awesome. But yeah, you'd like to see the guy get as many touches with balance. I think they've done a nice job of that. I don't think they need to feed him the ball anymore. And I would say with Will Rogers, I think the only thing with Will Rogers right now that, to me, I've been pleased with Will Rogers. He's thrown some absolute dimes. He's got a high completion percentage. He doesn't have an interception. I'm not really sure what people are upset about other than the fact of the fumbled snaps. That has to be corrected. And that, you think, is it's not like you're asking a guy to suddenly throw a 95-mile-an-hour fastball when he's only got 80 in his arsenal. He can take a snap. I know he's not been under center when he was at Mississippi State. I know he wasn't in high school. But let's just work on that, the center, and he's worked with 2 different centers. That may be something that is a part of it. But that has to be cleaned up. And those are the 2 things for me that are driving me nuts, is the center and QB exchange and the special teams coverage units. You're just like, clean it up, fellas. Like, those are mistakes that are going to absolutely burn you. Can't afford to have those. Other than that, like, you know, I think Will Rogers has been efficient. He's been good. He's thrown some beautiful balls. That 46-yard touchdown, it went above the goalpost. That was a rainbow. It had some snow on it when it came down, and it was just whoop, right in Boston's breadbasket. It was a phenomenal throw. So I think he's done a great job. But the center and QB exchanges are something he's going to have to get. He's going to have to get that cleaned up.
Jordan, what about you? Just start with Rogers first.
So with Will Rogers, I think that he's been absolutely phenomenal. I think he's a top 5, maybe top 3 quarterback in the Big Ten. Especially, you look at statistics-wise, you look at his efficiency, you look at he doesn't turn the ball over. The big problem that we've seen is taking sacks, and I think that's an offensive thing. But also, he's not very mobile. It seems like if he gets pressure in his face, he kind of buckles, right? And that's what he is, right? He's a guy that needs time to sit back there and make throws. But he has been extremely efficient. I think he's been elite when you look at his completion percentage, some of the balls that he throws. His decision-making has been good where he's not throwing interceptions. So I don't think you can ask for any more from Will Rogers. He's been absolutely phenomenal. I think, like Elise said, we have to figure out a way to get a consistent offensive line where he's comfortable with the guys in front of him and snapping the ball. That has to be something that has to be fixed. Other than that, to me, when it comes to Jonah Coleman, they have a really good opportunity on the offensive side of the ball. And Will Rogers is protected because, to me, if I'm playing the Washington Huskies, my main focus is to stop the run. I don't want Jonah Coleman to go for 150 to 200 yards, whether it's on a big play or just 4 yards in a cloud of dust. So he's going to have opportunities like that Denzel Boston touchdown where he can throw the ball deep, and he's going to be able to get behind the defense at times. So I think, to me, they've done a pretty good job of play calling within the 20s. It's just scoring. And I don't know if that's a play calling issue. I don't know if that's a Will Rogers issue, but they have to find a way to score touchdowns because that bit them in the ass really bad against Washington State. I mean, it cost them the game along with a lot of other things. But, I mean, going for 3 points is not going to win you a lot of games in the Big Ten against these top-tier teams.
Elise, do you have a follow-up to that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree that you always look at it like, how much have we learned from the first 4 games and the small sample size, and what is really the truth and what is the anomalies? You're still learning. I think what we've learned is that Jonah Coleman is a beast. We've learned that Will Rogers looks like a veteran. Like, I think you meant like when he took the penalty for the safety in the end zone, he didn't have a lot of options. And so you knew that this team had a lot of skill guys that were high level, but would their offensive line be stout enough to keep pressure out of Will Rogers' face? They've been inconsistent with that. So
that was bad play calling too. That play calling, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was one thing that made me so mad, at least, is that you have Jonah Coleman. Just give yourself some breathing room so you can punt the football. You cannot give up a safety right there. And they run a naked boot, and they run a situation where they didn't even block the end man on the line of scrimmage, which is a boot play, right? But unfortunately, when you're down the end zone, those guys are thinking sacks. They're thinking safety. That's their main. I mean, sometimes their assignment goes to the wayside because you're in the opponent's end zone. Your goal is to get a safety. Yeah. So the play calling down there was a head scratcher. That's one thing I wanted to bring up too, is some of these things where it's self-inflicted. It's not just the players. That play call is get 3-4 yards and punt the ball away out of your end zone is better than a safety, right?
Yeah.
Because we kicked the ball from the 25-yard line. I think that was where they got the ball at like the 50 on the kickoff return on that time too. So, I mean, there's so many things that go into, I think they have to find a way to make Will Rogers more comfortable. And because when he's comfortable, and he's been that way maybe 60, 70% of the time, he's made amazing throws. He's made great decisions. He's done things really well for this team. So I think it's on the coaching staff right now to put him in situations to be successful, because when they do that, and they've done that, I'm not saying it's a huge problem, but if they want to be a team that's going to get to that 8-9 wins instead of 6-7 wins, they got to find a way to keep Will Rogers comfortable and get in a groove on offense and not put him so much pressure. You run a boot on the goal line when the game's like 7-3 or whatever it was, or 10-3 or something like that. It was not, the game was not out of reach at that time.
Sure.
So those are situations that I think the coaching staff can really help Will Rogers as well.
Well, it's one of those things too. I mean, he does throw a nice ball, and I just wonder sometimes when you have that transition of going from that offense that you've come from with Mike Leach, and then going to an offense that is very much more probably what you see on NFL Sundays, is very pro-like. Right. And I just think it's a weird thing, Jordan, but I think some of these guys just never get under center, and then they get under center and they don't know what to do, which is just so weird, because it's like, it doesn't seem like it's that hard, but I don't know. I've never played the position, so it must be. And I think just the simple task of taking the snap, at least what you were talking about earlier, and then dropping back is such a different thing opposed to being whatever it is, 5-6 yards behind the line of scrimmage and getting the shotgun. So something that he's probably he struggled to really master right now.
And I haven't gone back and looked, and I'm sure maybe Jed Fish, obviously they have done this, but how much of it is on the center for getting excited, and maybe, when you're under center and TT Ollie, the center, I don't think he's played in a pro style offense coming from Portland State either. So, shotgun snaps are different than under center. And so, when you're looking at the guy in front of you who's trying to kick your ass, and you might get, when you hurry, problems can happen. So we'll see. Like, that's something that we all know has to be cleaned up. It seems like that's doable. That's a workable problem that can be fixed. You'd imagine it's not, you're not asking them to do something that's impossible or really difficult. You would imagine that with some work and more reps, and I was thinking with the play calling you were talking about, Jordan, I always think, like, you go to a spring game and the play calls are going to be completely and totally vanilla. You're not going to learn anything, right? You go to the non-conference portion of the schedule, and so many coaches, and we don't know this with Jed Fish, well, at least I don't, to know how much is he holding back, how much is he wanting to give the opponents and the upcoming Big Ten opponents something to chew on, something to look at, something to have to prepare for. And I agree with you that that's not the play call you want when you're butt up against your own end zone. I agree with that. But I always think to that, like, there's so many different goals they're trying to accomplish in a game that don't always align. of what you're trying to reveal, what you're trying to show, what you want people to look at. What do you want your guys to embrace? How do you find your strengths? It's been 4 games. So I don't know I don't know all of those things for Jedd Fisch in this offense, but it's just something to consider. Like, what new wrinkles are we going to see at Rutgers?
Sure.
I don't know.
Friday.
It'll be interesting.
No, absolutely. And just one thing to add to that, I think that after this first 4 games, that's exactly what the staff is going to do. They're going to lock themselves in a room, and this is really going to happen. And they're going to go through basically the first 4 games, and they're going to throw out a bunch of shit. They're going to throw out the stuff that doesn't work. They're going to throw out the stuff that caused problems for Will Rogers or the offensive line, or maybe the guys didn't do well with that group of plays or whatever it might be. Same thing with the defense. I think Belichick has done an amazing job. I know we're going to talk about the offense, but he has stuck with what's worked, and he's thrown out the stuff that has not. He finds a way to put his guys in good position, and I think it's the same thing on offense now. And Jedd Fisch, he is a very smart guy. He's a genius when it comes to football, and that staff is, I think, really a really good staff. So you're right. There's a chess game going on all the time with how to outsmart your opponent that you're playing, how to outsmart the guy that you're going to play in 2 weeks, how to outsmart Oregon, who's going to watch the same film. There's so many things that go on to one game, one play. So I think that sometimes, and I've heard Puck say this too, it's like sometimes you just got to play football. You can't be cute about it. And that's within the 20s, right? So if you're going to score a touchdown, you got to do what works, right? It's time to score 7. You get 6.
Yeah. Coaches get too cute. They just and I get it. I mean, because oh my God, they're going to think we're going to do this, so we can't do that. And it's just like you take the Washington State game last Friday against San Jose State. They get the ball after the interception in overtime. All they need is a field goal to win the game.
Yeah.
And I get, they want to get enough yards so they don't have to settle for a 40-yard field goal to win it. But throwing the ball 20 yards down the field, which gets picked off, is just asinine.
You didn't like that call?
Yeah.
No, I did not. When you've got Jake Locker back there.
I was going to say,
let him have the ball and run the ball.
And
I just think that this mentality, they're going to expect we're going to do that, so let's trick them. I don't know. So I guess I would say that same thing about Washington, as you guys are talking about it, like in the red zone. You have a bowling ball back there.
Yeah.
Use them and just beat them into the ground.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
I think that
it's hard to tackle.
You do that or you play action. It's really simple to me, right? And use your tight ends. You got the middle of they have really good tight ends. I really like Decker and Latu. I mean, they have some guys right now, even though Quentin Moore's been out. Use the middle of the field. You got great outside receivers and you got a great running back. The offensive line is obviously not going to give him a lot of time. Get the ball out of his hands quickly, right?
Yeah.
So I agree 100%. One thing I want to give credit to the Cougs for and Dickert was I loved his quote after the game where he said his guys basically picked him up and the coaching staff for all the boneheaded plays that they called or something like there was some he had a good quote.
He got out-coached,
or something like that. And those are things that you love to see, and those are things that your team loves to hear as well. So I want to give him credit. I thought that was a really cool thing to say.
Elise, when do you leave for Rutgers? Does it start today? Like, I mean, how long is it going to take you to get to
taking the RV or?
Yeah. You driving?
Yeah. You know what's so funny is that one of my best friends lives in Pelham, New York. And so I was looking on the map, like, how far is that away from Rutgers? And so I pulled up the map. It said if I took off driving, it was going to take me like a day and 14 hours or something to get there.
Perfect.
And I'm like, oh my God.
Nice little Sunday.
Oh my God. But the planes, I'm excited actually about the fact that there are 2 planes this year. 2? I've always 2. So I have always flown with the team on the team plane. And so that means that little old me is sitting in the middle aisle, the very last one in the back for 2 decades. And this time there's 2 planes, which means I might get a little extra space.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm excited about that,
cocktails being served.
Yeah. Yes. No, shoot. You guys, it's
Welcome
hilarious.
to the Big Ten, Elise.
Yeah, Big Ten. Come on in, Big Ten. Bourbon on us.
It is hilarious on what has changed on the team flights throughout the years. It used to be like back in the day when like Gilby was the head coach or whatever. It was like Snicker bars and a big old white paper bag and like
Gilby with his pants up to here
and all this stuff. And I'm not saying that was what Gilby chose. Oh, I love Gilby.
I love
I'm
Gilby.
just saying that was the snack pack that when you got in, that's what was on. Now it's like Chris Peterson changed it all. Chris Peterson, it was like carrot and celery sticks. It was like organic yogurt. It was like all these things. And then
we had doubles and Rice Krispie
what
treats.
do you guys have?
It was all.
Did you have the king size Snicker? Is that what you had?
The king size Snickers. I'd have like 4 or 5 of the big, foot long Rice Krispie treats, and I mean anything you wanted. Really, it was all candy,
Yeah.
And it was
not
nothing.
So
what's fish got? Just like tequila and what? Cigars?
I don't know. It is our first road trip. We'll find out. But
that's right.
The one thing I was going to say about having whiskey on the flight or something, Chris Peterson took out pop. Like there was no soda on the flight. Even it was Gatorades and water. Those were the options.
Actually, I don't remember pop on our flights either. I remember it was Gatorade and water.
Maybe, but I'm talking about even stocking it for like us idiots.
Right, the adults. Right.
I will say, and this pissed me off. I don't know why it made me so mad. It just pissed me off. Jordan, you can attest to this because you lived through this.
Yeah.
In fact, I remember one time didn't you have to get an IV? You were dehydrated?
We had Syracuse. Yeah. I was on the tarmac laid out.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember.
They were wheeling out the things. What made me so mad as somebody that had no control over it, it was you guys would play your tails off. You got tape marks. Like you go straight from the game to post-game media to showering right to the tarmac. You guys are exhausted. You're beat up. You're swollen. And Tyrone Willingham made y'all put suits on for overnight flights. And I'm like, why wouldn't you put them in issued sweatsuit gear? Every time I'm like, make the madness stop. These guys are in dress shoes and their feet are bleeding. Like, God, I still get pissed to it this day. Did you
it's funny you brought that up. I hated it. No, I hated it. Well, and I complained to him several times as I got older. And I was like, dude, this is absolutely ridiculous. I think we went to something different later on, but then he went back to the suits. And I was like, number one, we're all wearing like Men's Warehouse, like $20 suits. It's 4 sizes too big or 4 sizes too small.
And you'd see
nobody's got any money.
No, you'd see this little freshman kid or whatever, big freshman kid, that he'd wear the exact same suit, and he's not going to go get it dry cleaned. And then somebody like me has got to sit next to him, and I'm like, Chap, he doesn't want to wear this, and he can't afford it. You're not issuing the gear. I was just like, this is so lame for everybody involved, and nobody sees you on the flight. You're literally, there's like 4 airport workers that do security. All right, never mind. I got it off my chest.
Yeah. No, but I want to go.
I
want to go back to the second plane. First of all, the NIL money is just rolling in, man. Okay, why do we have 2 planes now? Like one for the team and then one for what?
Media, bud. Come on, we got a big following. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not exactly sure. I heard for a while, and I tried to get it confirmed, but no, I didn't know. I thought it was because Airvan Moving takes the semi truck and takes all the gear, and they've got it wrapped. It's cool. They're a great company.
They already
take
left.
Everything.
Yeah.
What I was told was that because of the long distance, it was going to take so long to get the gear that they were going to get a plane instead because of the weight issues with all the players and the gear. That it was too much. They needed 2 planes to do that. But then I heard, that wasn't cost effective. And then I don't know. I really don't know at this point why there are 2 planes. But
Mama's getting free cocktails and an upgrade is what she's getting.
Well, one thing I do know about Jed Fish, though, is that he takes care of his coaches and his staff. I bet you it could be he's bringing more people, too, than maybe a regular coach. I mean, he does.
Jordan, I did hear, because I heard that part of it was that, and it's true, and I know this, you're talking about 300+ pound dudes that are in the middle seat. As you're trying to go perform. It's not, we all know flights suck. Jordan, you know better than Puck and I. But, you get over 6'3" in height, and you get your knees, and you're uncomfortable, and you're flying 6 hours, and you got so much on the line, and you got
miserable.
It's a performance thing. And at least lately, it used to be back in the day, the coaches would always sit in the first class seats. And thankfully, the coaches get in the back, coaches. I know, let your players, your big dudes up front sit in first class. They need that space. But I did hear that part of the reason, not all of it, but that they did want to make it so that the players would not be. We're talking every single seat was taken, y'all. Every single seat.
See,
So
when we played,
uncomfortable for those guys.
yeah, when we played, like going to Syracuse or Oklahoma or some of these longer trips, we did. I remember because Grayson and I were thick as thieves. Grayson Gunheim, one of my best friends, and we always had the middle seat open. But I think the younger guys, I don't know how we did it back then. I'm trying to remember, but I do remember you'd have like three guys in a seat, and they were like freshmen, and they're like this, So I mean, yeah, it's uncomfortable if you're not
just put them back in the bathroom. I would just go sit in the bathroom.
Yeah, more room.
You know what? I'm going to be in the bathroom for 5 hours. Yeah. What do you guys? So when you said it, Elise, I forgot. Yeah, you've played every game in Seattle. So first road trip, that brings that's going to bring its own challenges, regardless of who you're playing. But now you are flying across the country. Elise, Rutgers, what challenge do they present with Greg Schiano? I just think physical. I think running. I think defense. They want to win the line of scrimmage and punch you in the mouth.
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right. They're a really good running team. They've got a really good back. I might be the only one of the rare people that, we were at Rutgers less than a decade ago, played at Rutgers. Right. And so, at least I know the lay of the land and everything. It's a long flight. It's one of the longest ones they're going to face.
I remember that week, but I'm not really going to, for what was transpiring that week and that day, and I'm not going to bring it up on here of what was happening that day.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Puck. I remember on the sideline being like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, okay. that was fun.
Okay, now I got it. Now
We'll tell you off. We'll tell you off the air.
Yeah, you can Google events in September of 2017.
Yeah, about right. 17 or 18.
16, I think. Anyway, yeah, you'll figure-nize it. Anyway. But no, I'm looking forward to this game. The line's 2.5. Rutgers is favored. I think it's because of the flight. I think it's because of, they're at home. I think it's going to be two really evenly matched teams. I think we're going to find out a lot about Washington. One, it's real. We've seen it in the NFL for years and years that the West Coast teams that have to go east, it's a significant disadvantage. And at least it's not the 10 a.m. like the Seahawks when they have to play the 10 a.m. Pacific time kickoff. Yeah. That's a beast, and it's really difficult. At least it's a 5:00 p.m. game. So, I mean, you just know as a normal person that isn't having to go out and play 60 minutes of getting your brains bashed in, that it's hard to travel and lose 3 hours and be in the air that long. And, there are physical things that happen to you when you're up in the air that long and you're with the oxygen and the depressurized things and all the things that they're going to try to circumvent, but there's certain things that you're just going to have to deal with. But I think in terms of crowd noise and that is going to be the first time they're dealing with that on offense. Is it going to be overwhelming as some places? I mean, I don't remember it being loud at all when back the last time that Washington played there, and they weren't that good, and they were terrible. So maybe now that they're, off to a really nice start and it's a different head coach and it's going to be a different vibe, I would imagine. It's a road team, right? You're on the road, so it's going to be a test. But I think that this would be a game that is going to be the most physical team that they face. And so the defensive line has been awesome. The offensive line is going to get tested. And, they need some improvement up front. But they've got to prove that they can hang with the big boys on this road trip and be just as physical as they are. And I think they'll get a win. I think they're better in the skill positions, especially in the wide receiver spot. So, I mean, it's going to be a test. They're road underdogs, so we'll see.
Well, I think the big thing when I looked at the schedule is that thank goodness this isn't at Penn State or Ohio State, or even Michigan, where their first big road game is not against this juggernaut, or even Iowa. We're not saying, Rutgers is a good football team. I mean, they're going to be a bowl team. I think that they don't have, like you said, I think the skill level, maybe some of the speed that Washington has, but they also have they have a really good running back. They have a good offensive line. They have guys that are returning. They have a lot of veterans. So, I mean, this is a good football team, and I think they are pretty evenly matched. I think the big thing for me is that what you have to look for as a Washington Husky is that the mistakes have to stop. Beating yourselves have to stop. Negative plays, negative minus minus. Coach Hart would spit all over us. Negative minus minus. You cannot have those type of plays, especially on the road. And this team is good enough. I mean, they're a couple plays away from being undefeated right now.
Yeah.
And really, Washington State probably should be a ranked team, and they might well be by the end of the season. So their lone loss is to a pretty darn good Washington State team that they had on the ropes and lost that game. So this team is good enough. It has the skill guys. It has the ability to be really good, but it has to eliminate mistakes. That's what's going to beat them, because if they eliminate their mistakes, they can probably play with anybody, because that defense, as I've said, is going to keep them in the game.
Yeah.
I don't care who they're playing. I don't care if it's Oregon. I don't see Oregon scoring 50 on them. I don't see them scoring 30 on them. But that offense has to take care of the football. You have to, no fumbles at the snap. Make sure that you're not fumbling the ball, right, as a runner. And then special teams has to be the word of the day, the word of the week. You cannot have special teams lose this game for the Huskies. That's what I'm going to be, honestly, that's what I'm going to be watching, because if this continues throughout this year and they win 6 or 7 games instead of 8 or 9 or 7 or 8, I mean, someone's got to get fired. I mean, when I was playing, if this type of special teams play was unacceptable. I remember guys getting fired left and right when I was there, and there was a lot of stuff that was unacceptable at that time. But right now, special teams is really, really holding them back. It did in the Wazoo game as well.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think the big thing there, Jordan, is this type of style of game. Where we've talked about it. It's going to be defense. It's going to be tough. It's going to be field position. And I mean, it is wildly apparent that the return team, especially on kickoffs, it's 3 yards in the end. They're bringing it out. I haven't seen a team has anybody had a fair catch this entire season yet? They are back there bringing every single one out, and they're getting past the 25 every time. It's just it's such a flip, because last year it was like, and for the Huskies last year too, it's like returning it. If you returned it out of the end zone, you're like, you're going to get it at the 15-yard line. What are you doing?
Right.
Like, don't take that chance. It's so minuscule. Yeah. And this year it's been like hit, 25, 45, 96.
Why can't we get a freaking kicker? And I love Gigi. Grady Gross, awesome. He's done some legendary things. Kick the ball out of the end zone. I want a kicker that kicks the ball out of the end zone so they cannot return it. Every kickoff, right?
Yeah,
and he's done that a couple times.
Well,
I don't know if he doesn't have the leg, but I know that I'm like, we have to do something to save the special teams right now. We got to have somebody with the leg that kicks the ball out of the end zone, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that Jed was asked that at the press conference on Monday, and he said that they would love for him to boot it out of the end zone. Like you're talking about, like some coaches teach it to take it at the 2 so that, make them make a decision. But it sounds like they would like him to, but it's a matter of, and the other thing is that puts a lot of strain on a kicker's leg. And, ideally get your coverage unit down there. It's not, and for Grady Gross, save your leg for field goals when you're desperately needed. Those are points on the board. Like, you do not want him to wear his leg out. And it takes a lot away from a kicker if they're constantly, if you're going out full force, however many times a game, and then it comes down to the fourth quarter and you got to kick a field goal from 50 yards. I mean, that's
right. At least, but if he doesn't kick it out of the end zone, he takes it at the 2 and goes to the 2-yard line. Rutgers is going to score. We're going to have a hard time stopping Rutgers at the 2. So that's 7 points that you're giving.
Coverage, get your coverage guys in the lanes they're supposed to be in, and don't blame like Grady because he's only getting it to the end zone 3 yards deep. It's like, for God's sakes. And
I'm not blaming. I don't want. He's done amazing things and he's been awesome at field goals. So I'm just saying, like, if you can, without obviously having issues, do that.
The good news, Drew Fowler is supposed to be back. He's a really good special teams guy.
Absolutely.
And so is Anthony Ward. So two of their guys who are physical, hard hitters, who are good special teams players, that cannot hurt them. It should only help them to get those two guys back. They're slated to be back against Rutgers for Friday night, so that should help.
Hey, last thing for you, and it hasn't done anything to do with Washington or any of or Rutgers, but indirectly it does. The situation, I'm curious of your thoughts on this one, Jordan, because you played college football and at least you're a college basketball player, so I mean you can answer this clearly as well. The UNLV story, Jordan. The quarterback has decided to redshirt this year now, the starter, after the Run Rebels have got off to a 3-0 start. They're ranked, they're 23rd in the country. He is redshirting because he is saying that he was promised an NIL deal when he transferred from Holy Cross to UNLV. $100,000 is what's being reported, and he's only seen $3,000 of it, the expense that was paid for the move. And he says, you know what? I'm not getting what I was promised. I'm going to redshirt. Your reaction to that?
Well, number one, the entire situation makes me ill, physically ill. When I saw it last night, I immediately retweeted it. I was like, we have holdouts now in college football. As I learned more about it, the whole situation is absolutely asinine and should never happen in college football. We should have never gotten here, number one, okay? For UNLV, shame on you for whoever promised this kid $100,000 or whatever the dollar amount is, and they're not paying him, okay? That's number one. Number two, this kid right now, whether he likes it or not, and he has been wronged, I understand that, is going to be shunned. He's letting his team down. This team can go on a run and make the college football playoff. They're ranked right now. They have a great head coach. They have a really good team. And to me, it was a bad situation that got even worse now, because now you want a red shirt. Now if that team goes 7-4 instead of 9-2 or whatever, maybe they have a backup that's good. I don't know. But this whole situation is what is wrong with college football and should never have happened. And to me, it makes me physically ill that this is where we are in college amateur athletics, which it's no longer amateur. You might as well call it free agency.
Sure.
Yes, if I was playing and I had a family, I would have took every damn dime I could get. I get it, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that's the way college football was when I was there, because it helped prepare me for life a lot more. Because a lot of these guys that are getting $100,000 in college are going to blow through that and then not know how to do anything after they get done playing football, right? Because it's still that small percentage of guys are going to get to the NFL, right? So to me, the lessons learned from grinding through college and really learning how to eat ramen noodles and save and scrimp and be somebody that networks and finds a way to build a brand or a business or be successful in anything, whether it's sales or a teacher or fireman, whatever. There's so many different lessons that come from when I played. And I think it helps people later on to be a good father, to be a good husband. There's so many things that it does. Now it's just a little bit different because it's all about money. And every time money touches anything, what does it do? It might not ruin it, but it makes it nasty. It makes it ugly. So the whole situation's unfortunate. I'm off my soapbox. I mean, I feel for the kid. I understand. I'd be pissed too. But I would never let my team down. I would never do that.
Elise, Elise, I want to read it. Can I let me jump in here real quick? I want to read because, and I was waiting for this. The collective for UNLV and the school has released a statement about this. The collective said a statement regarding Matthew Sluka's redshirt decision. We want to address the recent developments surrounding Matthew Sluka and his decision to redshirt. To clarify, there were no formal NIL offers made during his recruitment process. Additionally, friends of UNLV did not finalize or agree to any NIL offers while he was a part of the team, aside from a completed community engagement event over the summer. At Blueprint Sports and Friends of UNLV, we take our commitments very seriously. We'd like to emphasize that we upheld all Friends of UNLV contracts this season and have not defaulted on any agreements with Mr. Sluka. Now, the university also sent out a statement, the university athletics department, saying football player Matthew Sluka's representatives made financial demands upon the university and its NIL collective in order to continue playing. UNLV athletics interpreted these demands as a violation of the NCAA pay-for-play rules, as well as Nevada state law. UNLV does not engage in such activity. Nor does it. I'm just thinking Jerry Tarkanian and when they were sitting in the hot tub. Nor does it respond to implied threats. UNLV has honored
I got a towel right here, Puck.
Yeah. Yes. UNLV has honored all previously agreed upon scholarships for Matthew Sluka. Elise, what do you make of this story?
I think there's so many tentacles to this story. First of all, it's really lucky for the kid. He's a football player. because he gets 4 games to decide whether or not he wants to redshirt in a 12-game season, which is a quarter of the season. You go to baseball, you throw 1 pitch, your season's over.
God, really?
Okay?
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
You take 1 at bat, your season's over. So
Terrible.
in terms of athletes, and what was agreed upon, it's unfortunate, but if this kid doesn't have something in writing, he might have screwed himself.
I think he's full of shit.
And you could absolutely be right on that too, Jordan. So if you don't have something, you want to talk about life lessons, Jordan?
How do you not have it in writing, right?
Like life lessons. Hey, guess what, buddy? Yeah. You're 21 years old now. If you don't get something in writing, somebody can screw you. Welcome to the world. And you can also, guys, you could be like the Pac-12 or the Mountain West and have something in writing and then try to renege. Because the contract doesn't matter because you were forced into it.
Well, the Mountain West also did try to poach and splinter Washington State and Oregon State away, but that's for another show.
I mean, again, this is what college sports is, y'all. It's like terrible. The individual right now that is saying, I am leaving my team. He can right now get, supposedly there's been other offers for 6 figures for him for next year because he played good. He has 1 year left after the 4 years at Holy Cross.
That just makes me so mad.
But if he plays 2 more games, his career's over. His career's over.
Is he a senior?
He does have 1 more chance. Yeah, I believe so. This was his last thing. He was at Holy Cross, I thought, for 4 years.
I'm just wondering what there's a lot of stuff now that I think is going to come out now that the university and if the NIL collective comes out at UNLV and says, hey, we didn't promise this guy anything. I mean, I know the people at UW's NIL deal, and they do a pretty good job of keeping things tight-lipped and all that stuff. But I mean, you have to be by the book and you have to have, especially in Washington State, probably, I don't know, Nevada might be a little different, but I don't know anyone that would come to a school and do all these things and have nothing in writing. I don't know. I think it sounds like this kid was like, hey, we're ranked number 25. For who?
Yeah. Florida? No.
Jaden Rashado.
Yeah. Like what?
Well, he had a contract though, or apparently they had some paperwork, right?
I haven't looked into how that got resolved. I mean, he transferred, but yeah. Okay. So then what does that mean? There's just so many layers to this.
There are no rules. That's the thing. There's no rules. Yeah. There's no governing body. There's no one that oversees any of this. It's the wild, wild west. Somebody said it on Twitter earlier. It's a drug deal gone bad. That's what it is. It's a drug deal gone bad.
Just wait for the offseason for John Mateer. Just wait.
Oh, what offseason? It started already.
Well, yeah. Sure. That's the type of stuff that just irritates me though, because the Cam Ward stuff we knew he was leaving, or everyone knew he was leaving halfway through the year.
But it's everybody. It's not just not just Mateer. You don't think people are in the DMs of Jonah Coleman right now?
Oh yeah, they're
it's just all of them.
You talk about Latu and Decker. I mean, our tight ends. These guys are freshmen, and anybody that's young or anybody that has a year or 2 left. I mean, I don't know what to do though, because it's like, when I was a kid, I was married, I had a child. And somebody says, hey, I'll give you $200,000 to come down to Cal or I don't know, whatever school. I mean, you got to take it, right? I mean, even for me, like I bleed. I mean, I would be sick. But these guys have parents at home that might not have the financial means to even come to a game. Yeah. So like, I can't fault anybody, but I will fault somebody that doesn't get that in writing. You can't expect. People are assholes when it comes down to money. Anything can happen, right? And like Puck said, it's a Wild West. So, I mean, I don't know. I just can't imagine that NIL collective, maybe it's just because I think of UW's and the people that are involved with that. I can't imagine them promising a kid something and then totally just saying, we didn't promise you anything. That's an absolute lie. So
the only thing on that made me pause, Jordan, was because the kid I thought was a senior. And so there's got to be it's dirty business. And my thought is, if he plays 4 games, he's done. So he's either just going to play for UNLV or he's done for his career. And what kind of leverage does this kid have?
But the real money's in the NFL.
But is he an NFL guy? Most likely not.
He doesn't seem to be.
Right.
Yeah.
So my thing is the only, in terms of leverage, this kid has one move to make. And that is, and I don't know who did, it's the he said, she said, how much money did they give? Why is it in writing, all that. The bottom line is for this kid, if he is getting wronged in any way, shape, or form, he has one move. And that is to say, I'm not going to play. I have a one more year if I don't play more than 4 games. And so he had to make a decision quickly. Is he walking away from his team? Yeah. He got there 2 months ago. Like, that's the thing. He's not in the weight room grinding with these guys for 4 years.
That's a great point. Yeah, these guys don't
transaction.
care. Look at Jabbar Muhammad. These guys don't care. He came from Texas Tech. I mean, these guys they're journeymen, right? So they're gypsies now, right? And I don't know if that's a bad word, but they move from team to team. That's to get as much money as possible. So I mean, I can't fault people for doing that. It irritates me. I don't like it because I don't like the way what it's done to college football, right, as a whole. Okay. But I can't, I really, because I don't know what I would do with the child and a wife and stuff when I was playing. But the problem is that right now that kid could have, there's a couple options, but that kid could have said, hey, we're 4-0. I'm playing lights out. I want more money, or I'm redshirting and go get more money from another team. Mm-hmm. And then they said, hey, we're not paying you. We don't have a contract. And he's like, okay, peace out. I'm going to say this and this and this. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have happened. That's one, right? But and these guys have bad people sometimes in their ear too, whether it's mom and dad, whether it's an agent. Sure. So the whole thing's just went to shit.
That's honestly. Just the way that it is of a college football. All right, that's Puck the Huskies podcast. It's brought to you by Georgetown Brewery. Elise Woodward, Jordan Reffett. You can find it everywhere: YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. Of course, at pucksports.com. Jordan,
you guys
we'll talk to you off the air.
Up for my long dry flight. Thank you.
Yes. Have a safe flight. We'll talk to you next week, Elise.
Make sure it's not middle seats.
Yeah, I'm praying.